Hello dear followers and welcome to my channel. My name is Marlies. Today we're going to make two Halloween mini pages and the centerpiece is a vintage frame. I got out my Tim Holtz Halloween sticker book from this year 2023 and I've cut out two portraits, a male portrait and a female portrait. I'm going to use these two little pages to create the pages, the collages. First step is to adhere the stickers onto regular white cardstock. Now that the stickers are on the paper, I have to fit my frames around the portrait to see if I have to make any adjustments. And I see I have to, so I'm going to use a pen on the outside of the frame so I can make a reference for myself for cutting. First, I will do a rough cut around the portraits. After that, you can do the more detailed work and make it fit into your frame. So just cut it first and then fit your frame and see if any parts of the portrait is sticking out, and then cut by hand until everything fits together. Next material that I'm going to use are the shattered windows, also a release of Halloween this year, 2023. And I really think those shattered windows are awesome. So for this frame, I also going to use them. Maybe you could think the frame is just so small, the pictures, the portraits are so small, will it fit? But I think it goes really well. My focus was on the two shattered parts of one sheet, and I want the whole of the shattered window exactly on top or around the face of the portrait. And here you can see up close how cool the effect is of the shattered windows in this frame and the portrait behind. I think it is so cool. Let's play with some alcohol ink espresso color and the frames. I would like to alter the color of the frames, so my first layer is this espresso color. Here you can see up close the amount of ink that goes on. Ready for our next layer, alcohol pearl ink smolder, and I will put on some drops on the in and the outside of the frame. The two alcohol ink colors are on. You can see some little puddles here and there, and I'm going to dab off any excess of the frames. I will also bring in a greenish color. It is called lettuce, because later on you will see I have some green pieces that will go on the page too, and I want all colors to be matching. And I am not using a lot of this color, just a couple of drops here and there. With the Distress Collage medium, I glued down the portrait and the shattered windows, and I did that with an outer line of glue on the outside of the portrait. After drying, I will put it to the side and let it air dry. The portrait needs to be really dry because otherwise it can still move around because the shattered windows are plastic. So right now my portraits have dried and I have the time to glue the frames on top of the portraits. To keep the frame and the photo in place, I will use these handy little clips to hold everything together until it is dry enough to use any further. While my frames are drying, I will focus on this piece of ephemera. It is like a postcard, but because I have 2 pages and I want them to be in the same style and matching, I will cut this piece of ephemera apart, and I will make it fit for this page. And also I have another page on the right side of this folio. You can also see that I am trying to fit in the frame. It is just for yourself to get a bit of a knowledge about placement and how every piece will look at is best. And now we have a great base to work on even further. Instead of using this pocket as a pocket, I have cut out like a little bit of a half oval shape because I'm not going to use it as a pocket. I want it to be rough and dark and a little bit grungy. So I'm going to rip the papers apart so I will have a more grungy look around the frame. And because we have multiple layers of paper, the folio and on top the backdrops, it gives more possibilities also to tear those pieces of paper into layers. So you can see I will have a layer and on top another layer torn. On our background piece, the postcard, I would like a frame. For one page I did it in an orange color, and on the other side I will do that in a purple color. And I'm just going to put the little postcard on top of this paper and I will cut around. And that means I have the right size for this piece of postcard right away. You can check the measurements by stacking them up together. Only thing left to do is cut out the centerpiece of the frame. Before adhering all the papers together, I have my Distress Ink Vintage Photo to give them a bit of a more darker and a browner, older look. So I got out my blending tool and started inking up the 2 pieces, the postcard and the frame. I also want some staining on top of my paper, so I'm going back in with the same ink on my craft sheet, wet it down, break up the color with my fingers, and I will dab every piece of the paper into those drops of ink. And now that I already have my ink out, I'm also going to give this, the torn edges, the papers, a similar look. So my first layer is the vintage photo color, and I'm just going to rub it on roughly. There is no precision needed for this step. Next color is the Distress Ink Wilted Violet, and I'm just going to rub the pad on top of those torn papers. And what you can do is leave it as is, the ink, or activate the ink with your water bottle sprayer. The ink color is now activated with the water, and it is easy to move around, and I have chosen to move it around with my fingers. I even want to go darker with the black Soot Distress Oxide spray because, well, yeah, it is a Halloween theme, so darkness is totally fine. And I'm just going to use the nozzle to, you scrape it along in those creases and in between the layers of torn paper. I also want some more darkness on the frame and the postcard that we just did, and I'm going to use the Liquitex acrylic ink Carbon Black and just right away out of the bottle with my dropper, put some drops on your paper or some lines and activate the color with your water bottle sprayer. When you think that one area has too much product on, just use an old cloth or kitchen towel to dab off any excess. In the meantime, my paper frame and my postcards are dry, and it is time and ready to glue them together. And I'm going to do that with my Distress Collage medium matte. When you have seen my earlier videos on my Halloween project, you already know that I made some mummy cloth in a purple color and also in an orange red color. And I'm going to use it right now to stitch it along on the sides of my frames. Besides using mummy cloth, you can also think about using old lace or ribbon or loose threads. In this case, I am using just regular sewing machine threads in the black color. I'm going to crumple those threads up in between my fingers, and I will place it in between the layers of paper and mummy cloth. And then stitch all layers together. Now that the layers are attached, you can also do some roughening up. So I'm going to get in there with my scissors and cut some, some gaps. And I will tear it a little bit to the side, to the top or to the bottom. To get a matching look throughout these pages, I'm going to use the mummy cloth again, but I'm going to cut it into smaller and thinner strips so I can place it around the frame and underneath. I am also using some of the loose and black thread to glue that in between, and I'm going to glue all these layers down with my Distress Collage medium matte. And here is a close-up of what we have so far. On the right page I saw some clear area, so I want to fill that up with this piece of Halloween ephemera. And all my papers get the same treatment, so I have to get back in with my brownish ink and also make the paper a little bit more rough by crumpling it up or roughen up the edges with my fingernails or a paper distresser. I also would like to repeat my staining on my paper, so this little piece of ephemera will also get some staining on top, and after that it is time to glue it down after the piece has dried. Glue it down so you have a knowledge about placement and what kind of areas you will still have left to decorate. For me, it is knowing where I have to cut my pocket, because this is a pocket, but I'm not going to use it as a pocket. I'm going to do the same as I did on the other side, the other page. I'm going to cut out half an oval, and I will tear away some of the paper layers and give it a torn look. On those torn edges, I will do the same thing that I did on the other side, on the other page. So my basic layer is the Vintage Photo Distress ink, but be aware, the other page is in purple tones, and this page is more in an orange-red tone. So the middle step, after using the Vintage Photo, is not purple, but I will use my Distress ink Lumberjack Plaid. Again, I will use the ink pad right away onto the paper and scrape the ink on and activate with my water sprayer bottle. And for a more dark and chalky look, I'm going to use the Oxide spray black Soot. To decorate my pages even more, because I do like some details, some smaller details on top, I found some pieces of Halloween ephemera out of the ephemera pack. So I have a little butterfly, a label, the poison label that I have in my hands right now, and a little crow. And I will give them a good rub of brownish ink. Again, I will do some staining on top of those little pieces of ephemera, and it is just repeating some steps and techniques to get a cohesive look on the all-over project. As soon as you have the right layout for your little pieces of ephemera, your details, it is time to glue them down. So there goes the crow, and I found the perfect spot next to the crow for this little poison label. And for adding details, you can also think about using the tiny attacher and get some staples in your frame or your pieces of ephemera. Once your cluster or your little collage is ready and you are satisfied with the result, it is time to glue it down to the page. Give the collage a fair amount of glue and try to wiggle the right side of this collage underneath and inside of the pocket. Now that the base is in and on there, it is time to glue down the frame that we already created earlier in this video. After gluing down the frame, I also saw some more white areas around the frame, those torn papers, and I'm going to ink them up with the Liquitex Ink Carbon Black just to give it a more dark look. I will execute this step very gentle because you do not want too much dark ink around the frame that you cannot control. So a little drop and a little bit of water. Next step is to focus on the details for this page. I have my little green butterflies, some Glossy Accents and Distress Glitter Nightfall. First I will use my Glossy Accents on the butterfly and give it an even layer of glue. While the glue is still wet, I will get my jar open and I will put the butterfly wings, only the edges, into the glitter, the Nightfall glitter. Also repeat this step on the other wing. To not only have one black edge on each side, I'm going to sprinkle on some glitter randomly, but just a little, no big parts of glitter and great grand flocks. And this is the end result. Put it to the side and let it air dry. While the butterfly is drying, I have my hands free to work on this page further, so I'm going to glue down my collage, give it a good even layer of glue, and try to wiggle or slide it inside of the pocket. Also around this frame I saw some clear areas in the torn papers, so I'm going back in with my acrylic ink from Liquitex, the Carbon Black, and just using the dropper to put on some drops of ink and activate it with my water bottle sprayer. When you think you have too much ink, you can dab away any excess. Last and final step in this video is to add our little details, the butterfly. That also means this video is coming to an end. If you like my content, please like, subscribe or comment down below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day!